The Las Vegas Raiders are sitting in a spot that almost feels unreal for a franchise that has lived in drama for so long. Number 1 pick, lined up. Money to spend, a fresh coaching mind in Klint Kubiak, and a fan base that is tired of hearing about rebuilds and ready to see results. Nobody expected the Raiders to crash that hard last season, but here's the twist. That failure might be the exact reason this team is about to jump forward faster than anyone in the AFC is ready for. On offense, everything points to one simple move that can flip the story. You lock in Fernando Mendoza, you protect him, and you let him grow in a system that is built to make life easy for a young rookie quarterback who can hit those one-on-one shots outside the numbers. Imagine a front that finally stops leaking pressure. With Colton Miller no longer trying to hold up a broken wall by himself and Ashton Genty running behind real zone blocking instead of hoping for miracle cuts. Add the play-action game that follows when the run starts to scare defenses, and suddenly the Raiders do not look like a team hunting for answers. They look like a group that knows exactly what they want to be. Then you turn around and see Max Crosby standing on the other side of the ball, and the picture gets even louder. The outside world keeps throwing his name into trade talks, keeps trying to pull him into every rumor cycle, but what nobody is talking about is how the message coming from inside the building has started to change. The front office is acting like a group that finally understands time, focus, and culture. And how easy it is to waste all three if you handle a star the wrong way. To really see why this moment feels different from the usual Raider chaos, you have to look past the roster and dig into the new leadership choices that are quietly shaping everything behind the scenes. But before we get into that, hit that like and subscribe button for more Raiders and all the NFL content. Let's aim for 500 likes on this video. You really see how different this new era feels in the way the Raiders are dealing with Max Crosby and all the noise around his name. Instead of letting every rumor turn into a circus, the message leaking out is simple and sharp. They do not want to move him, and if anyone even thinks about calling, it has to be an offer so wild it barely feels real. That is not just posturing. That is a front office telling the league, our star is not a toy for your trade machine, and we are not going to waste our time or our energy taking phone calls that go nowhere. This is what real organization work looks like, and Raider fans are not used to seeing it handled this clean. In the past, a story like this would drag on for weeks, steal every headline, and pull attention away from the actual work of fixing the roster. Now the leadership is basically saying, do not bother us unless you are ready to knock us over, because we have bigger things to handle than fantasy offers. That one choice cuts off hours of pointless talks, kills side distractions before they grow, and sends a clear signal to the locker room that the team's best players are part of the plan, not bargaining chips. You can see the same mindset in how Klint Kubiak is building his staff almost overnight. Proven names are sliding into key spots, from long-time line expert Rick Dennison to detail-heavy coordinator Andrew Janocko, from defensive mind Rob Leonard to steady voices like Mike McCoy and Joe DeCamillis. Wideouts get a demanding teacher in Zach Azani. Linebackers get Ronell Williams, the secondary gets Holcomb watching over things, and the backfield is handed to Omar Young, who knows this system inside and out. When a staff with that kind of mix snaps together this fast, it usually means there is a very specific style coming. And the first place you feel that style is in the trenches, where the entire offense either lives or dies. For all the talk about schemes and playmakers, the Raiders' truth lives in a simple place. The offensive line was not good enough, and everyone in the league knows it. If you drop Fernando Mendoza into the same soft pocket, you are not building a future. You are setting him up to get hit and second-guess every throw. The shocking part is how quickly that can flip if they go aggressive right now, turn that weak spot into a strength, and make life boring in the best possible way for a rookie quarterback who just needs time and clean windows. The name that keeps coming back is Tyler Linderbaum, and there is a reason he sits at the center of every smart plan for this offense. A young anchor who can pull, reach, and redirect in the run game while keeping the pocket firm in front of Fernando Mendoza changes everything the moment the ball is snapped. If you drop in a guard, like Wyatt Teller next to him, you suddenly have real push inside instead of hoping a back like Ashton Genty bounces his way out of trouble. If the market breaks right, even adding a steady veteran such as Kevin Zeitler, Aaliyah Vera Tucker, or Isaac Sumalo gives this staff options they simply did not have and turns protection calls into strengths instead of damage control. Now picture that rebuilt interior line paired with Colton Miller on one edge and a developing tackle like DJ Glaze or JPJ on the other, all moving in sync with the zone runs and play action that Klint Kubiak loves to lean on. That is how you keep the hits off Fernando Mendoza. That is how you unlock cutback lanes for Ashton Genty, and that is how you make defenses hesitate for that one extra heartbeat before they crash downhill. Once you have that foundation in place, the next question becomes brutal for every defensive coordinator on the schedule, because then you have to decide which wide receiver you are willing to leave alone when the Raiders finally go hunting for a true number one target. Right now, the Raiders receiver room feels like a group that is almost ready, but not quite there yet. You have young pieces like Jack Besh, Trey Tucker, Dante Thornton, and Cedric Jackson, who all flash different traits, from toughness in traffic to pure straight line speed. They are exciting, they are cheap, and they give the offense options across the depth chart. What they do not give you is that one clear alpha who walks into the huddle and everyone knows. This is the first read when the game is on the line and the coverage is tight. That is where the outside market quietly becomes the most dangerous weapon Klint Kubiak has. A player like Rashid Shaheed already understands this system, already proved he can turn simple yes or no reads into explosive plays when the safety cheats the wrong way. On the other side, you have Alec Pierce, who wins in a completely different style, stacking corners, turning jump balls into his own personal rebounds, and stretching the field on deep outs and sideline fades. Mix in a tough chain mover such as Jawan Jennings, and even the idea of a short-term swing at a veteran like Mike Evans, and you start to see a room that actually fits together, with speed threats in Trey Tucker and Dante Thornton pulling safeties wide while a bigger body punishes single coverage. The key is not to bury Jack Besh or stunt the growth of the younger guys, but it is to drop one proven target into the middle and let everyone else slide into roles they can own. Put Alec Pierce or Rashid Shaheed on the outside, with Zach Azani demanding physical routes and real blocking effort. Keep Trey Tucker terrorizing defenses from the slot, and suddenly the play action shots off that rebuilt line look a lot more violent. Defenses will have to decide if they want to live with one-on-one coverage outside or start rolling help. And the moment they tilt that safety one step too far, it opens a different door entirely for Fernando Mendoza and Ashton Genty in the ground game that this staff is quietly building around, with coaches like Rick Dennison ready to lean on it. What really shows how serious this Raiders reset is sits in a place most fans do not even think about first. The team just quietly handed the offensive line and the ground attack to Rick Dennison, a coach who has spent decades turning ordinary fronts into machines. This is not a splashy name move. This is a detail move. You do not bring in a 60-plus-year-old line expert with a stack of rings if you plan to stay soft up front. You bring him in when you are ready to let the run game carry real weight for Fernando Mendoza, instead of asking a rookie quarterback to win every drive on his own. Look at the track record. Under Rick Dennison, backs like Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet just combined for 1,757 yards and 17 touchdowns in 2025, with the defense knowing exactly what was coming and still failing to stop it. Before that, you saw Alvin Kamara ripping through space, Victory, Dalvin Cook pounding through lanes, LaShawn McCoy gliding behind zone blocks, and earlier legends like Arian Foster, Mike Anderson, and Reuben Drowns turning clean footprints into huge games. Different teams, different jerseys, same pattern. When this coach gets his hands on the line and the backs, the system does not flash once, it repeats year after year And players buy in because they can see the proof on tape and in the box score. Now drop that history into Las Vegas with Ashton Genty ready to explode in an interior line that is about to be rebuilt around names like Tyler Linderbaum and a possible veteran guard such as Wyatt Teller or Kevin Zeitler. Suddenly the plan is not just to protect Fernando Mendoza, it is to let the ground attack punch first so the young quarterback can pick his shots instead of forcing throws. If the Raiders really lean into this blueprint, opposing defenses will have to crowd the box to survive, and that is when the next part of this story gets scary, because a run-heavy threat paired with a rewired passing attack and a defense powered by Max Crosby changes how every single game feels before the ball is even kicked. The wild part about this new era for the Las Vegas Raiders is that it is not being sold with slogans, it is being built with people who actually know how to win. You have Klint Kubiak at the top, a first-time head coach who already showed in Seattle that he can design an offense around his players instead of forcing them into a box. Around him, the front office has stacked voices like Mike McCoy as assistant head coach, Rob Leonard running the defense, and Joe DeCamillis on special teams. All coaches who have seen real playoff pressure and understand what a serious building looks like from inside the room. When a rookie like Fernando Mendoza walks into this kind of structure, he is not guessing who is in charge or what standard he has to meet. The tone is already set before he throws his first pass in the building. On defense, the message is just as clear, and it starts with Max Crosby. The new staff around him is not random. Ronell Williams comes from a tough defensive culture in Philadelphia. Al Holcomb brings decades of experience as a senior defensive assistant, and a coach like Omar Young slides into the running back room with deep knowledge of this exact offensive system from college and the pros. That combination tells the locker room exactly what this regime values: physical tackling, detailed preparation, and coaches who know how to teach, not just shout. It also quietly sends a signal to veterans who might be watching from a distance. Because when you see respected assistants choosing this job, you start to believe this is a place where your work will not be wasted. What nobody is really talking about is how fast all of this came together and how that speed changes the timeline. Staff almost fully in place before the combine, a clear path to draft Fernando Mendoza, a plan to lean on Ashton Genty with Rick Dennison steering the ground game, and a front office that has already put out the line in the sand around Max Crosby. That is not a team wandering in circles. That is a group that wants to hit year one with a real identity instead of another transition season. The real question now is simple and brutal at the same time. With this culture and structure finally in place, what is the one move left that could take this from a promising blueprint to a true nightmare for the rest of the AFC? Everyone is staring at that top pick and the idea of Fernando Mendoza, but the sneaky power in this Raiders rebuild lives a little further down the board. When you have the first selection and a clean cap sheet, the later rounds stop being throwaway tickets and start becoming tools to attack very specific weak spots. The front office already knows the headline is locking in their rookie quarterback. The real art is using day 2 and day 3 to grab players who can grow with him and fit exactly what Klint Kubiak and this staff want on both sides of the ball. Think about the spine of this roster a year from now if they nail those middle rounds. You already have Max Crosby as the tone setter, Ashton Genty ready to pop in this run scheme, young receivers like Jack Besh and Trey Tucker fighting for snaps, and a coaching tree that knows how to develop talent. Now add a smart, deep safety who can roam behind Isaiah Pola-Mao and Jeremy Chin. Maybe even a young version of a player like Minkah Fitzpatrick who can flip the field with one read. Add a physical outside corner who can survive on an island in Rob Leonard's system, a swing lineman who can play inside and outside when injuries hit, and one more explosive weapon who can help in the return game and in space. Those kinds of picks do not win the press conference, but they are the ones that turn a thin roster into a group that can survive a full season without falling apart when one starter goes down. What makes this setup so dangerous for the rest of the AFC is how flexible it keeps the Raiders. They do not have to panic trade Max Crosby for draft help They do not have to move off the number 1 pick, and they do not need to chase aging stars just to patch holes. They can sit in their spots, trust their board, and keep stacking players who fit their scheme, their culture, and their timeline with Fernando Mendoza at the center. If they hit on even a couple of those hidden weapons on day 2 and day 3, the conversation around this team will flip fast. And that is where the final piece of this story comes in. Because once all these quiet moves line up, the league has to ask itself a serious question about what happens when this version of the Raiders finally arrives on schedule. The scary truth for the rest of the AFC is that the Las Vegas Raiders are building something that does not look desperate. It looks inevitable. You have Clint Kubiak steering the vision, a front office that refused to panic over the Max Crosby noise, and a plan that ties a rookie quarterback like Fernando Mendoza directly to a strong line, a real run game, and a grown-up coaching staff. This is not the old cycle, where the Raiders chase one flashy name and hope it fixes everything. This time, they are stacking quiet advantages that other teams only notice when it is already too late, and the schedule drops them into Allegiant Stadium with real stakes on the line. Imagine walking into that building in a year or two and seeing the full picture. Fernando Mendoza is no longer the kid everyone argued about. Conhi is the settled leader who knows exactly what Tyler Linderbaum is doing in front of him, trusts a veteran like Wyatt Teller or Kevin Zeitler to keep the pocket steady, and turns around to hand the ball to Ashton Genty, while Rashid Shaheed, Alec Pierce, Jack Besh, and Trey Tucker are stretching coverages to the edge of the frame. Across from them, Max Crosby is still the heartbeat of a defense that now has help, with coaches like Rob Leonard and Al Holcomb sharpening the details and young pieces in the secondary finally allowed to play fast instead of just surviving. That is not a fun scouting report for anyone sitting in Kansas City, Baltimore, or Buffalo trying to map out how the conference will look in a few seasons. The most dangerous part is that all of this is starting while the Raiders still hold the number 1 pick and a mountain of cap space. They have room to miss on a move and keep swinging, room to be patient with Fernando Mendoza, room to tell the league that Max Crosby is only available for a haul so large it borders on fantasy. This is what a perfect situation actually looks like in the modern NFL. Not instant wins, but total control over your own timeline. If they keep making decisions with this kind of discipline, the question will flip from whether the Raiders can catch up to which AFC contender is going to be the first to admit that they did not pay enough attention while this new version of the silver and black was quietly being built right in front of them.